The massive alien ships appeared in Earth's sky on a Tuesday morning. Sarah Chen was drinking her coffee when her assistant burst into her office with the news. As Earth's chief ambassador, Sarah had handled many difficult situations, but nothing like this. The ships were enormous, each one the size of a city. They hung motionless above major capitals around the world, casting shadows that made millions of people look up in fear. Within hours, the aliens sent their message to every government on Earth. The message was simple and direct. The Galactic Coalition demanded Earth's surrender. They wanted humans to join their empire or face destruction. They gave Earth 1 week to decide. Sarah read the message 3 times, then set it down carefully. Around the world, other leaders were probably panicking. Military generals were likely planning attacks. But Sarah had a different idea. She called an emergency meeting of the United Earth Council. Representatives from every nation gathered in the Great Hall in Geneva. The room buzzed with worried voices and angry shouts. Some demanded immediate military action. Others wanted to surrender right away. Sarah stood at the podium and waited for silence. When the room finally quieted, she spoke in a calm, clear voice. "We will do neither," she said. "We will not surrender and we will not attack. We will offer them something no one has ever offered them before. Peace." The room erupted in shouts. General Harrison, a man with gray hair and sharp eyes, stood up angrily. "Ambassador Chen, these aliens have threatened our entire planet." "We must defend ourselves." Sarah shook her head. "General, look at their ships. Look at their technology. If we fight them, we will lose. But more importantly, fighting is not who we are anymore." She gestured to the large screen behind her, which showed images from around the world. Children playing in parks, doctors treating patients, scientists working together across borders, artists creating beautiful things. "For the past 50 years, humanity has worked to end war," Sarah continued. "We have fed the hungry, healed the sick, and protected the weak. We have turned our weapons into tools and our armies into helpers. Are we going to throw all of that away because someone threatens us?" President Martinez of the Americas leaned forward. "But what if they attack anyway? What if they see our peace as weakness?" Sarah smiled sadly. "Then they will learn something about humanity that even we sometimes forget. We choose peace not because we are weak, but because we are strong enough to choose it." The vote was close, but Sarah's proposal passed. Earth would respond to the aliens with an offer of friendship. The next day, Sarah stood in the communications center as Earth sent its reply to the alien fleet. The message was broadcast on every frequency, translated into mathematical concepts that any intelligent species could understand. "To the Galactic Coalition," Sarah spoke into the microphone, "we receive your message and understand your request. However, Earth must respectfully decline both options you have presented. We do not wish to surrender, but neither do we wish to fight. Instead, we offer a third choice. We invite you to be our friends." The message continued with offers of trade, cultural exchange, and shared knowledge. Earth offered to teach the aliens about music, art, and literature. They promised to share their medical knowledge and their techniques for growing food. They even offered to help the coalition solve problems with other worlds. The alien response came 6 hours later. It was brief and confused. The coalition had never encountered a species that refused both surrender and war. They demanded clarification. Sarah smiled and sent another message. "We understand this is unusual. Perhaps we could meet in person to discuss this further. We have prepared a place for your representatives to visit Earth safely. We promise your safety and comfort during any talks." For 3 days there was silence from the alien ships. Sarah waited patiently, continuing to send messages of friendship and offers of cooperation. Other world leaders grew nervous, but Sarah remained calm. Finally, the aliens responded. They would send a small delegation to Earth to understand this strange human proposal. The meeting took place in a beautiful conference room overlooking Lake Geneva. Sarah had made sure the room was filled with flowers and soft music. She had also arranged for the best human food to be served, though no one knew if the aliens could eat it. The alien delegation consisted of 3 beings. They were tall and thin with gray skin and large black eyes. They wore simple uniforms and carried no visible weapons. Their leader introduced himself as Commander Vex. "We do not understand your proposal," Commander Vex said through a translation device. "In our experience, all species either submit to the coalition or resist with violence. You offer neither response." Sarah poured tea for herself and offered some to the aliens. "Commander, may I ask how many worlds your coalition controls?" We govern over 3,000 worlds, Vex replied proudly. And how many of those worlds joined you willingly without any threats or force? Vex paused, his large eyes blinking slowly. That is not how the galaxy works. The strong rule the weak. It has always been this way, Sarah nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps that is true elsewhere. But here on Earth we have learned something different. We have learned that the truly strong do not need to prove their strength by hurting others. She gestured to the window, where they could see the city below. People walked peacefully in the streets. Children played in parks. It was a normal, quiet day. Our planet was once divided into many nations that fought each other, Sarah explained. We had terrible wars that killed millions. But we chose to change. We chose to work together instead of fighting. Now no human goes hungry. No human dies from diseases we can cure. No human lives in fear of war. Commander Vex looked out the window with growing interest. How do you maintain order without force? We help each other, Sarah said simply. When someone has a problem, we solve it together. When someone is angry, we listen to them. When someone is afraid, we protect them. The talks continued for 3 days. Sarah showed the aliens human hospitals where doctors from different countries worked together to save lives. She took them to schools where children learned about other cultures with excitement instead of fear. She showed them farms where new techniques helped grow more food than ever before. The aliens were fascinated but skeptical. They had never seen a civilization built on cooperation instead of domination. On the final day, Commander Vex asked the question Sarah had been waiting for. What do you want from us in return for your friendship? Sarah smiled. Nothing. Friendship is not a trade. We offer it freely because we believe all intelligent beings deserve respect and kindness. When the alien delegation left, they took with them copies of human music, art, and literature. They also carried detailed plans for Earth's medical and agricultural technologies. Sarah had given these gifts freely, asking for nothing in return. The alien ships remained in Earth's sky for 2 more weeks. During this time, more delegations came down to visit. Each group left with new gifts and new questions about humanity's strange ways. Finally, the coalition fleet departed, but not before Commander Vex sent a final message to Sarah. Ambassador Chen, the coalition will consider your proposal. We have never encountered a species like yours. You may hear from us again. As the alien ships disappeared into space, Sarah stood on her office balcony and looked up at the stars. She knew this was not over. The coalition was not convinced. They would return, probably with more threats and more demands, but Sarah was not worried. She had shown them something new, something they had never seen before. She had shown them what humanity could be when it chose peace over war. The real test, she knew, was still coming. Dr. James Morrison wiped sweat from his forehead as he pushed deeper into the Amazon rainforest. He had been studying plant life in this remote area for 3 months, but today felt different. His instruments were picking up readings he had never seen before. The trees here grew in strange patterns, almost like they were arranged by design rather than nature. The air itself seemed to shimmer with an odd energy that made his skin tingle. James had been a scientist for 20 years, but this place made him feel like a child discovering magic for the first time. His research team followed behind him, carrying equipment and taking careful notes. They were all volunteers excited to be part of Earth's new peaceful exploration programs. Since the alien visit 6 months ago, the government had increased funding for scientific research instead of military spending. Dr. Morrison called his assistant, Maria. These readings are impossible. The plants here are producing energy signatures that should not exist. James knelt beside a cluster of blue flowers that glowed softly in the forest shade. When he touched one gently, it pulsed with light, and he felt a warm sensation in his mind, like a gentle touch on his thoughts. I think we are not alone here, he said quietly. As if responding to his words, the forest around them began to glow. Soft lights appeared among the trees, moving like fireflies but with purpose and intelligence. The lights gathered in front of the research team, swirling together until they formed shapes. James gasped as the lights became solid. Standing before them were beings unlike anything in Earth's fossil records or imaginations. They were small, about 3 feet tall, with skin that seemed to be made of starlight. Their faces were kind and wise, with large eyes that sparkled with intelligence and sadness. The leader of these beings stepped forward. When it spoke, the words appeared directly in James's mind, not as sounds, but as pure understanding. Welcome, humans. We are the Kithera. We have been waiting to meet you. James struggled to find his voice. You can speak to us mentally. We share thoughts and feelings, the being replied. It is how we communicate. My name is HFY. We have lived here for many of your generations, hidden and healing. Maria stepped forward, her scientific training overcoming her amazement. How long have you been on Earth? Where did you come from? HFY's mental voice carried deep sadness. We came here 300 of your years ago. We are refugees, survivors of a great tragedy. The Kythera led the humans deeper into the forest, to a hidden valley where James saw wonders that made him question everything he knew about life. The Kythera had built a civilization that lived in perfect harmony with nature. Their homes were grown from living trees, their energy came from the songs of flowers, and their food was created through pure cooperation with the forest itself. Your people, James said in wonder, you are the most advanced beings I have ever seen. Why are you hiding? HFY sat on a moss-covered rock that glowed softly under her touch. We hide because we are few and we are afraid. Our homeworld was destroyed by the Galactic Coalition, the same beings who visited your planet recently. The words hit James like a physical blow. The Coalition destroyed your world? Not just our world, another Kythera said, joining them. They destroyed our entire solar system. 12 planets, countless moons, billions of our people. We had refused to join their empire, you see. We were a peaceful people who valued art and harmony over conquest and control. HFY continued the story, her mental voice heavy with memory. When we would not submit, they declared us a threat to galactic order. They said our ideas of peace and cooperation were dangerous to their way of life. So they eliminated us. How did you survive? Maria asked softly. A few thousand of us escaped in small ships before the final attack, HFY explained. We scattered across the galaxy, looking for worlds where we could hide and heal. Most of us died during the long journey. When we found Earth, only 200 of us remained. James felt anger building in his chest. The Coalition committed genocide against your people because you believed in peace? Yes, HFY said simply. And when we arrived here, we discovered that humans were developing the same dangerous ideas. Ideas about cooperation, about caring for the weak, about choosing peace over war. We knew the Coalition would come for you too eventually. So you stayed to warn us? James asked. HFY shook her head and James felt her gentle amusement in his mind. We stayed because you protected us without even knowing we existed. Your governments banned weapons testing in this area. Your people fought to preserve this forest from development. You created laws to protect unknown species before you discovered them. She gestured to the glowing valley around them. You gave us sanctuary without knowing you were doing it. That is when we knew that humans might be the species we had hoped to find for so long. Over the following days, James learned the full extent of the Kythera's influence on Earth's development. They had been secretly helping humanity for decades, sharing knowledge through dreams and inspiration. The breakthrough in clean energy that had ended Earth's environmental crisis had come from Kythera science. The medical advances that had eliminated most diseases had been guided by their healing techniques. You have been helping us all along, James realized. We help because you helped us first, HFY replied, and because we see in humans what we once were. A people capable of great love and terrible violence, choosing love despite the cost. James met dozens of Kythera during his time in the valley. There were children, barely 2 feet tall, who could make flowers bloom with their laughter. There were elders whose wisdom seemed as vast as the stars. There were artists who painted with light itself, and healers who could mend broken bones with a touch. But there were so few of them. James counted only about 400 Kythera in the entire hidden valley. For a species that had once numbered in the billions, they were still dangerously close to extinction. We have grown in numbers since coming to Earth, HFY told him. When we arrived, we were dying from grief and radiation poisoning from our destroyed homeworld. Earth's clean environment and your people's unconscious kindness have helped us heal. The Coalition does not know you are here? James asked. No. Their sensors cannot detect us when we choose to hide. But if they return to Earth with hostile intent, they will scan more carefully. They will find us. James felt a chill run down his spine. And if they find you? HFY's mental voice was calm but firm. They will finish what they started. The Coalition does not allow survivors of their exterminations to live. They consider us a threat to their authority. On his last day in the valley, James sat with HFY beside a stream that sang with musical notes as it flowed. The old Kythera was teaching human children from nearby villages how to encourage plants to grow faster and stronger. The children laughed with delight as flowers bloomed in their small hands. "We have been preparing for this day," HFY said suddenly, "the day when humans would learn about us. We hoped it would come because Earth had found peace with the Coalition. Instead, we fear it comes because war is approaching." "What do you mean?" James asked. "The Coalition has not forgotten about Earth. Our sources among other refugee species tell us they are returning. Your refusal to surrender or fight has confused them, but it has also made them angry. They will come back with greater force and fewer offers of mercy." James watched the children playing with the Kythera younglings, different species learning from each other in perfect harmony. "We will protect you," he said firmly. "Humanity will not let them hurt you." HFY touched his hand gently, and he felt her deep affection and sadness. "Dear James, we know you will try. That is exactly why we chose to trust your species. But the Coalition is vast and powerful. They have destroyed entire civilizations. Then we will have to be smarter than entire civilizations," James replied. When James and his team finally left the hidden valley, they carried with them more than just scientific discoveries. They carried the weight of knowing that Earth was now home to the last survivors of a gentle, wise species that had been murdered for the crime of choosing peace. James looked back once at the forest, where light still danced among the trees. The Kythera had trusted humanity with their greatest secret. Now it was up to humans to prove worthy of that trust. The question was whether they would get the chance to try. The alien ships returned to Earth's sky exactly 1 year after their first visit. This time they brought friends. Sarah Chen stood in the emergency command center, watching the screens that showed over 50 Coalition vessels positioning themselves around Earth. The ships were larger than before, and their weapons were clearly visible. The message they sent was different too. "People of Earth," the transmission began, "the Galactic Coalition has carefully considered your unusual proposal. We have decided that your pacifist philosophy is a dangerous influence that threatens galactic stability. You will submit to Coalition authority immediately, or we will demonstrate the consequences of defying galactic law." Sarah read the message twice, then looked at the other world leaders gathered around her. President Martinez looked pale. General Harrison was already pulling up military deployment plans. But Sarah remained calm. "Send them our standard response," she ordered. "We do not surrender and we do not attack. We still offer friendship and cooperation." General Harrison slammed his hand on the table. "Ambassador Chen, they have 50 warships. They are threatening our entire planet. How can you still talk about friendship?" Sarah looked at him sadly. "Because that is who we choose to be, General. Even when others choose to be something else." The Coalition's response came within hours. It was not a message, but an action. Their scanners began probing Earth's surface with increasing intensity, searching for something specific. The energy beams were not harmful, but they were invasive, examining every mountain, every forest, every city. In the Amazon, Dr. James Morrison felt the alien scanners passing over the hidden Kythera Valley like fingers searching through drawers. He knew the Kythera were using all their power to remain hidden, but the Coalition's technology was advanced and persistent. "They are looking for us," HFY told James through their mental link. "The Coalition has learned that some Kythera survivors might have found refuge on Earth. They are scanning for our energy signatures." James felt his heart racing. "Can you stay hidden?" "For now," HFY replied. "But their scans are getting stronger. If they continue for many more days, they will find us." On the third day of intensive scanning, the Coalition sent another message to Earth's leaders. This time the tone was different. Commander Vex's image appeared on screens around the world, and his expression was no longer curious but cold and angry. "Humans," he said, "our scans have detected anomalous energy readings in your Amazon region. We demand immediate access to investigate these readings. Any refusal will be considered an act of war." Sarah felt a chill run through her body. She knew what the Coalition was looking for now. James had shared his discovery of the Kythera with the world leaders, and they had all agreed to keep the gentle aliens' existence secret. But the Coalition was getting closer to finding them. "We cannot allow Coalition forces to land on Earth," Sarah announced to the Emergency Council. "The Amazon region is a protected ecological preserve. We do not permit military activities there. They will attack us," General Harrison warned. Sarah, if we refuse them access, they will use it as an excuse to begin their invasion. Sarah nodded slowly. Perhaps. But we cannot abandon those who trust us for protection. The coalition waited exactly 24 hours for Earth's response. When it came, Commander Vex's reaction was swift and brutal. The planet Earth has committed an act of defiance against galactic law, he announced, as a demonstration of coalition justice. We will now neutralize the anomalous readings in the Amazon region. This action serves as a final warning to the human species. The orbital bombardment lasted 3 minutes. James Morrison was in the field research, stationed 20 miles from the Kythera Valley, when the attack began. He saw the bright flashes of light in the sky, followed by explosions that shook the ground beneath his feet. He knew immediately what was happening. He ran toward the valley faster than he had ever run in his life, crashing through the forest without regard for the branches that tore at his clothes and skin. Behind him, his research team followed, all of them understanding the horror of what they would find. The hidden valley was gone. Where once there had been glowing trees and singing streams, there was now only smoking crater. The coalition's weapons had been precise and thorough, designed to eliminate everything within a specific area, while leaving the surrounding forest mostly intact. James fell to his knees at the edge of the crater, staring down at the devastation. The beautiful homes grown from living trees were now ash. The gardens where Kythera children had played with flowers were now bare earth. The stream that had sung musical notes was now a dried channel filled with debris, but worse than the destruction was the silence. The gentle mental voices that had filled this place with wisdom and kindness were gone. James reached out with his mind, searching for any trace of Kythera thoughts, and found nothing but emptiness. Then he heard a weak mental whisper from the far side of the crater. James scrambled down into the smoking remains and found HFY lying beneath a fallen tree trunk. Her starlight skin was dim and flickering, and he could see terrible burns across her small body, but her large eyes still held their kindness even as they filled with pain. James, her mental voice was barely a whisper. You came. He knelt beside her, tears streaming down his face. I am so sorry. I am so sorry we could not protect you. HFY tried to smile, though the effort clearly caused her pain. You did protect us. For 300 years you gave us a home when we had no home. You gave us hope when we had no hope. The others? James asked, though he feared the answer. Gone, HFY replied simply. The children, the elders, the healers, all gone. I am the last. James felt something breaking inside his chest, a pain worse than any physical injury. Why? Why did they have to kill you? You never hurt anyone. Because we represented something they fear, HFY said. We proved that peace is possible. We proved that different species can live together in harmony. They cannot allow such dangerous ideas to spread. James held her small hand gently, feeling the fading warmth of her starlight skin. What can I do? How can I help you? HFY's eyes began to close, but her mental voice remained strong. Tell them. Tell your people what happened here. Tell them that kindness is not weakness but courage. Tell them that some things are worth protecting, even when protection seems impossible. I will, James promised. I will tell everyone. And James, HFY added, her voice growing fainter, when your people choose what to do next, remember that we never asked for revenge. We asked only for the chance to live in peace. Do not let our death make you become what you fought against. With those words, the last light faded from HFY's skin. The final Kythera was gone, and with her died a species that had valued art over conquest, harmony over domination, and love over fear. James sat in the ruined valley for hours, holding HFY's still form while his team documented the destruction around them. When he finally stood up, he was no longer the same man who had entered the forest that morning. None of them were. The images and videos that James's team transmitted back to Earth spread across the planet within hours. People saw the smoking crater where a peaceful civilization had hidden for 3 centuries. They saw the small, burned bodies of beings who had looked like children made of starlight. They saw James Morrison weeping over the last survivor of a species that had been murdered twice. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. In every city, in every country, millions of people took to the streets, but they were not celebrating. They were not cheering for war. They were mourning. Sarah Chen watched the global response from her office, feeling something changing in the air around her. Phone calls poured in from every world leader. The voices were different now. The words were different. Ambassador Chen, President Martinez said when he called, "My people are asking me a question I have never heard before. They want to know why we let this happen. They want to know why we did not fight to protect them." Sarah looked out her window at the crowds gathering in the streets below. Signs and banners filled the air, but they did not call for surrender or negotiation. They called for justice. "What are you saying, President Martinez?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. "I am saying that Earth's position has changed," he replied. "We tried peace. We offered friendship. They responded by murdering children under our protection. The vote was unanimous, Sarah. All world leaders agree." Sarah closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She had known this moment would come, had feared it and prepared for it, but she had hoped it would never be necessary. "Very well," she said quietly. "Signal the coalition fleet. Tell them Earth has a new message to send." The transmission went out to the alien ships on all frequencies. Sarah's voice was calm and clear, but underneath the diplomatic words was something the coalition had never heard from humanity before. "To the Galactic Coalition," she said, "Earth acknowledges that our previous approach has failed. You have demonstrated that you do not understand offers of peace. You have shown that you respond to kindness with cruelty. You have proven that you cannot be trusted to coexist with those who think differently than you." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "Therefore, Earth's position has changed. We no longer offer you friendship. We no longer seek diplomatic solutions." Yo Admiral Maria Santos had not worn a military uniform in 15 years. The last time she had put it on was for her retirement ceremony, when she had gladly traded her rank for a position coordinating humanitarian aid missions. Now, standing in front of the mirror in her old apartment, she barely recognized the woman looking back at her. The uniform still fit, though it felt strange after years of civilian clothes. The medals on her chest told the story of a different time, when Maria had been one of Earth's most decorated naval commanders. She had fought in the last great conflicts before humanity chose peace, and she had been good at it. Too good, perhaps, which was why she had been so eager to leave it all behind. Her phone buzzed with another urgent message. Earth's hidden military facilities were coming online for the first time in decades. Weapons that had been stored in deep bunkers were being moved to secret launch sites. Scientists who had spent years curing diseases were now applying their knowledge to more deadly purposes. Maria walked to her window and looked out at the city below. The streets were filled with people, but not with the panic she might have expected. Instead, there was something else in the air. A quiet determination. A cold anger that had been building for 3 days since the images from the Amazon had reached every screen on Earth. Children held pictures of the Kithara who had been killed. Adults wore black armbands in mourning. But there were no calls for wild revenge or mindless destruction. Instead, there was something far more dangerous. There was purpose. Maria's communicator chimed with an incoming call from Sarah Chen. The ambassador's face appeared on the screen, and Maria could see the weight of recent events in her tired eyes. "Admiral Santos," Sarah said formally, "are you ready to accept command of Earth's defensive forces?" Maria straightened her shoulders and nodded. "I am ready, Ambassador. Though I must tell you, I have not forgotten why I left the military. I do not enjoy what we are about to do." Sarah's expression softened slightly. "None of us do, Maria. But the coalition has made our choice for us. They wanted to see what humans are capable of when we stop holding back. Now they will learn." "What are our orders?" Maria asked. "Simple," Sarah replied. "Protect Earth. Protect any other species threatened by coalition aggression. And make sure that what happened to the Kithra never happens again." Maria accepted the command codes that would give her control of Earth's military forces. As the data flowed into her personal system, she was amazed by what she saw. During the decades of peace, humanity had not stopped developing technology. They had simply developed it for different purposes. The medical nanobots that had eliminated cancer could be reprogrammed to disrupt alien electronics. The fusion engines that powered peaceful space exploration could be turned into devastating weapons. The artificial intelligence systems that had solved global logistics could plan military campaigns with terrifying efficiency. But most impressive of all was what humans had learned about themselves during the years of peace. They had studied cooperation, psychology, and communication in ways no military academy had ever taught. They understood how to work together, how to adapt quickly, and how to think creatively under pressure. Maria's first briefing with Earth's military leaders took place in a conference room deep underground. The faces around the table were familiar but changed. General Harrison looked older but more focused than she had ever seen him. Dr. Elizabeth Park, who had spent the last decade designing spacecraft for scientific missions, was now applying those same skills to military vessels. "Status report," Maria requested. General Harrison activated a holographic display showing coalition fleet positions. 53 ships in orbit around Earth. They are maintaining standard formation, clearly not expecting resistance. Our intelligence suggests they plan to begin landing operations within 72 hours. "Our capabilities?" Maria asked. Dr. Park leaned forward. "Better than they expect, but not necessarily better than they possess. We have been building defensive systems disguised as civilian infrastructure for years. The Coalition knows we have some technology, but they do not know the extent of it." Maria studied the display carefully. The Coalition ships were positioned exactly as military doctrine would suggest for a planetary invasion. They were following a pattern that had probably worked for them thousands of times before. They are making an assumption, Maria realized. They assume we will fight like everyone else they have conquered. They assume we will try to match their technology with our technology, their strategies with our strategies. "What do you suggest?" General Harrison asked. Maria smiled, and for the first time in days it was not a sad smile. "We fight like humans." The first phase of Earth's defense began not with weapons, but with words. Maria personally recorded a message that was broadcast to every Coalition ship in orbit. "To the crews of the Coalition fleet," she said, looking directly into the camera, "My name is Admiral Maria Santos of the Earth Defense Forces. I want you to know that we do not hate you. We understand that you are following orders, serving your governments, protecting your own families and worlds." She paused, letting that sink in. "But you have made a terrible mistake. You have attacked innocent beings under our protection. You have murdered children who had never harmed anyone. You have shown us that peace cannot exist while your empire spreads fear across the galaxy." Her voice grew colder. "We gave you every opportunity to choose friendship. You chose genocide instead. Now we will show you the consequences of that choice. You wanted to see humanity without restraint. This is your last chance to leave before you do." The Coalition's response was predictable. Commander Vex appeared on Earth's communication channels with a contemptuous reply. "Primitive humans, your threats are meaningless. We have conquered 3,000 worlds. Your small planet and its backward technology cannot stand against the might of the Coalition. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." Maria watched the transmission, then turned to her command staff. "Begin Operation Shepherd." What happened next was unlike any military action in recorded galactic history. Earth's response did not begin with massive weapons or fleet-to-fleet combat. Instead, it began with precision and creativity that confused the Coalition commanders. Small human vessels, disguised as civilian craft, launched from hidden facilities around Earth. They did not attack the Coalition ships directly. Instead, they did something unexpected. They began to help. The human ships approached Coalition vessels that were experiencing minor technical difficulties and offered assistance. When Coalition commanders refused help, the human ships simply waited nearby. When Coalition crews started reporting systems failures, the human ships shared detailed information about how to fix the problems. "What are they doing?" Commander Vex demanded of his tactical officer. "Are they trying to repair our ships?" "It appears so, sir. They are sending us diagnostic data and repair instructions for every malfunction we experience." Vex was baffled. Why would they help us repair our own ships? The answer became clear over the next 6 hours. The human ships were not just helping with repairs. They were learning. Every time they provided assistance, they were also mapping Coalition technology, understanding weaknesses, and identifying critical systems. Meanwhile, other human vessels were doing something even stranger. They were broadcasting Coalition military communications to the entire galaxy. Every order Vex gave, every tactical discussion between Coalition ships, was instantly transmitted to thousands of worlds across known space. For the first time in Coalition history, their victims could hear exactly what their conquerors were saying about them. Worlds that had been conquered decades ago learned that the Coalition had laughed about their suffering. Species that had been enslaved heard Coalition officers discussing them as animals. The psychological effect was devastating. Across the galaxy, rebellions began spontaneously on worlds that had been peacefully subjugated for generations. But the most effective part of Earth's strategy was the simplest. Human negotiators contacted the crew of every coalition ship individually. Not the commanders, but the ordinary soldiers and workers who made up most of the fleet. "We know you have families," the human messages said. "We know you have homes and dreams and people you love. We do not want to hurt you, but we cannot allow you to hurt others. If you choose to leave now, we will help you find a new home where you can live in peace." The defections started small. A few maintenance workers from coalition ships requested asylum on Earth, then some communications officers, then entire sections of ship crews. By the end of the first day, 12 coalition vessels had lost more than half their crews to defection. The remaining crews were confused, demoralized, and uncertain about their orders. Commander Vex tried to maintain control, but his fleet was falling apart around him. The humans had not fired a single shot, but they were destroying coalition unity with surgical precision. "This is impossible," Vex transmitted to his remaining ships. "How are they doing this?" The answer came from an unexpected source. One of his own tactical officers, a young alien named Kef who had been questioning coalition methods for months. "Sir," Kef said quietly, "they are doing what we never learned to do. They are treating us like people in who wanted to see what humanity." The war that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the ESV Harmony, Earth's first purpose-built warship in 50 years. Through the massive viewing window, she watched coalition reinforcements arriving from across their empire. Over 300 ships now surrounded Earth's solar system, the largest fleet the coalition had ever assembled. But Maria was not afraid. In the 2 months since the Kythera massacre, humanity had remembered what they were capable of when they stopped holding back. More importantly, they had learned to combine their old skills with their new wisdom. "Admiral," reported Commander Park from the tactical station, "Coalition forces are moving into attack formation. They are preparing for a final assault on Earth?" Maria nodded calmly. Around the solar system, Earth's defense fleet waited in positions that seemed impossible to the coalition commanders. Human ships hid behind asteroids, inside planetary rings, and even within the corona of the sun itself. They had learned to fight in places where other species could not survive. "Send the final message to Commander Vex," Maria ordered. The transmission went out on all frequencies, carrying Maria's voice to every ship in the coalition fleet. "Commander Vex, this is Admiral Santos. We offer you one last chance to withdraw your forces and leave this system peacefully. We have shown you what happens when you attack those under our protection. We do not wish to show you what happens when you attack us directly." Vex's response was filled with rage and frustration. "Human Admiral, you have caused chaos throughout our empire with your lies and propaganda. 12 star systems have declared independence because of your interference. This ends now," Maria sighed sadly. "Then you have chosen your fate. All Earth forces, this is Admiral Santos. Operation Lighthouse is now active. Show them who we really are." What happened next would be studied by military historians for centuries to come. The coalition expected Earth's ships to fight like every other species they had conquered. They expected frontal assaults, conventional tactics, and predictable strategies. Instead, they encountered something that redefined warfare. Human ships did not stay in one place long enough to be targeted. They appeared from impossible angles, struck with precision, and vanished before return fire could reach them. They used the gravity of planets as weapons, turning asteroids into missiles, and converting solar radiation into devastating energy beams. But more confusing to the coalition was how the humans fought. They disabled ships instead of destroying them when possible. They targeted weapons and engines while avoiding crew quarters. They sent rescue ships to collect surviving enemies even while the battle raged around them. "They are trying to capture us alive," reported one coalition captain to Vex. "They are fighting to win, not to kill." This was exactly what made them so terrifying. The human fleet moved like a single organism, each ship perfectly coordinated with all the others. When coalition forces tried to exploit what looked like a weakness in their formation, they discovered it was actually a trap. When they attempted to use their superior numbers to overwhelm human positions, they found themselves surrounded and cut off from support. Most disturbing of all was how the humans seemed to know everything about coalition technology and tactics. Every strategy Vex tried had already been anticipated and countered. How are they doing this? Vex demanded of his intelligence officer. Sir, our communications are completely compromised. They are reading our orders before we finish giving them. But more than that, they seem to understand our technology better than we do. It was true. During the months of apparent peace, human scientists had been studying every piece of coalition technology they could access. They had analyzed the ships that had visited Earth, reverse-engineered their systems, and found weaknesses that the coalition themselves had never noticed. But humans had advantages beyond technology. They had learned to think differently during their years of peace. Where coalition commanders saw only tactics and strategies, humans saw patterns and possibilities. Where coalition officers followed established procedures, humans improvised and adapted in real time. The turning point came when Vex attempted to break Earth's orbital defenses with a massive concentrated assault. Over 100 coalition ships launched a coordinated attack on Earth's primary defensive stations. The attack never reached its target. Instead, the coalition ships found themselves pulled into what appeared to be empty space between Earth and its moon. Too late, they realized they had flown into a trap that had been months in the making. Hidden, human ships emerged from stealth positions and disabled the coalition vessels with weapons that targeted their life support and communication systems. Within minutes, 100 coalition ships were floating helplessly in space, their crews alive but unable to fight or flee. This is Admiral Santos to all coalition vessels, Maria broadcast. Your ships are disabled but intact. Your crews are unharmed. You have two choices: surrender and accept our offer of asylum, or wait for rescue from your remaining forces. We will not harm prisoners or abandon survivors. The mass surrender that followed shocked even Maria. Entire coalition ships switched sides, their crews choosing to join Earth's fleet, rather than continue fighting for an empire that treated them as expendable. Among the defectors was Officer Kef, the young coalition tactical officer, who had questioned his orders. When he met with Maria aboard the Harmony, his first words surprised her. Admiral Santos, why have you not destroyed us? Your weapons could have eliminated our entire fleet. Why do you choose to capture rather than kill? Maria gestured to the viewing window, where rescue ships from both fleets worked together to save survivors from damaged vessels. Because this war is not about revenge, she said. It is about justice. The coalition leadership chose to commit genocide against peaceful beings. We will stop them from doing it again, but you and your crews are not responsible for those decisions. Kef stared out at the rescue operations in amazement. On my homeworld, we have legends about warriors who were so strong they could choose mercy. I thought they were only stories. They were not stories, Maria replied. They were promises. Promises about what intelligent beings could become if they chose to be better than their fears. The final phase of the war came when Earth's combined fleet, now including hundreds of former coalition vessels, moved against the coalition's core systems. But they did not come as conquerors. Instead, they came as liberators. On world after world, human ships arrived not to destroy but to offer choices. Oppressed populations were given the tools and knowledge to free themselves. Coalition governors who had ruled through fear found their own people turning against them. The war ended not with a great battle, but with a simple broadcast. Sarah Chen, now Secretary General of the newly formed Galactic Alliance, appeared on communication networks across the galaxy. Behind her stood representatives from dozens of species that had joined the Alliance, including many former coalition members. To all beings throughout the galaxy, Sarah said, the coalition empire has fallen, not through conquest or destruction, but through the power of choice. Every world is now free to determine its own future. Every species is free to live according to its own values. She paused, looking directly into the camera. We offer you the same choice we offered the coalition long ago. You can join us as equals in building a galaxy based on cooperation and mutual respect. Or you can choose your own path, and we will respect that choice as long as you respect the choices of others. The transformation that followed was not immediate or perfect, but it was real. The galaxy slowly began to heal from centuries of conquest and oppression. On Earth, in a place that had once been the Cathera's hidden valley, humanity built a memorial. It was not a monument to victory or human superiority. It was a simple garden where representatives of every known species could come to remember what had been lost and commit to protecting what remained. Dr. James Morrison, now elderly and gray-haired, often visited the memorial. On quiet evenings, he would sit beside the stream that had been rebuilt to sing musical notes as it flowed, and he would remember Zephai's final words. The Cathara had asked for no revenge, only for the chance to live in peace. Humanity had honored that request in the only way possible. They had built a galaxy where such peace was finally achievable. Commander Vex, now living quietly on a human agricultural world, sometimes joined James at the memorial. The former coalition officer had spent years learning to understand the concepts of mercy and forgiveness. "Do you think they would have approved?" Vex asked one evening, gesturing to the memorial stone that bore the names of all the Cathara who had died. James smiled sadly. "I think they would have been amazed. They lived their entire lives believing that peace was impossible between different species. We proved them wrong, but only because they taught us how to be worthy of peace." Above them, the stars shone down on a galaxy that was still learning, still growing, still choosing to be better than its past. And in that choice, the gentle spirits of the Cathara lived on, their dream of harmony finally becoming reality. The galaxy had learned the most important lesson of all. The strongest beings were not those who could destroy their enemies, but those who could turn their enemies into friends.